Hello, Nick. How are you this evening?
I'm all right, Mitch. How's it going?
Good. Very, very good. That is the campaign video for our Saints Awakening campaign. We are, 6 days into this, and raised $5,681 from 149 backers, looking to make it 150 here in the next few minutes as people trickle in. Want to say, how grateful I am, for every one of the backers that we have on this campaign and on other ones. You guys really do mean the world to us. And you're the reason we do what we do. It's awesome to have a dedicated fan base like this that come out in the first few days and support a really great comic that's been really hard fought, and a lot of really hard work has gone into it. What say you, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can be said enough how much we appreciate what everyone's done and the folks who support our books. We have a great fan base, and we'd like to grow it, of course. So I do have some kind of tentative, interesting news, is that the artist Christian Rosado is actually going to join us on one of these sometime soon. Just a word of warning, his English is not the best, but he's going to give it a shot with Google Translator. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty damn excited to introduce the YouTube sphere to Christian. He's a hell of a talent, and we're blessed to have him. He's hands down one of the most interesting, exciting guys right now illustrating books. I don't think that's
agreed. Yeah,
blowing smoke. I think that's very serious. He's a good dude too.
He's a good dude, and you talk about a true professional. Never worked with anybody like Christian, and I'm now spoiled. I mean, you give him a great script, and it is like wielding a what would you say? What's an accurate weapon? Like a howitzer. Like you just feed it the ammo, and it launches, and it's every time on time, never misses a beat. And yeah, I think we've been singing his praises quite a bit.
Is there something going on with your audio? Don't mean to interrupt here, but
my audio?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little fuzzy. Maybe it's me.
I can get a little closer to the
something's going on with it.
How about
that?
But
anyway, is this better? Yeah, much nicer.
Okay, I went to my built-in.
Yeah, sometimes that works. Not enough can be said about this guy. I mean, which leads me to layouts, because Christian makes it easy because he'll do layouts. And so we could tell right away whether we've missed a moment in the script or whether or not the action is going to play out. Is the drama right? Did we hit all the right notes, and does it land?
And if it doesn't, like due to translation or something, because we're dealing with South American artists. Right. Occasionally there's usually nails it, but there's always that chance where the character gets mixed up with another character or whatever. So it allows us the opportunity to catch things, both our mistakes, his mistakes, things lost in translation, things that could be honed a little bit. It's been an awesome process.
And let's be honest, sometimes when you think of something, you think it's like, oh, okay, this really works. And then when you see it on paper, you're like, ooh, maybe it doesn't. and then you can make the adjustment. But with him, like the last script, we just for people who don't know, Mitch and I just turned in 5, and he did it, and the layouts came back real quick, and we were pretty impressed. Then the inks came in, he pencils and inks, and you're just like, wow. And then when the colors came back, we just mind blowing. So we're wrapping up 6, the script for 6, and we're going to send it to him in the next couple of days, and we're looking forward to seeing it. We haven't shown anything from 5 because we're promoting 3 and 4. That's what this is. That's what this campaign's for. And we don't want to tease too far ahead and perhaps confuse people, because when they buy the book, they look inside. It's like, well, but that really cool panel, where is it? It's like, well, that's in book 4. That's in episode 4, episode 6. You don't want to confuse people. But Christian has always delivered. He's hit it out of the park, and I don't mind saying this in public. No drama, not 1 ounce. He does his work.
Just professionalism. It's
just professionalism, and that's
from a professional background as a commercial illustrator in South America and Peru specifically. So he has that.
How do we get up with the comments here? I've never done this. I've never manned this. How do we have a comment pop up?
Let's see. Can you see the comments on the right side?
Yeah, I can actually.
So you click. Maybe only I can do that.
I have a feeling all you. Oh, there it is. Did you just do it, or did I do it?
I did it. So yeah, you click on this show. I think I have I'm in command and control.
You have the con.
Yeah. Looking forward to Volume 2, killer overall package. Volume 1 was a solid story with beautifully done sequential art, cinematic quality to the art. Yes, very much so. I want to highlight something before I'm going to refresh this campaign page here in a bit, but I'm going to try to pull up. I want to stop my screen share, and I do want to pull up some stuff from episode 1. Like, I'd like to kind of go back a little bit, and let's get the audience reintroduced to this character and his world through the setup that we had in episode 1. And now episode 1 is also available on this campaign. So if you missed it, you see what you like here. Now you can get both the volume 1 and the volume 2 during this particular campaign. So you can get completely caught up on the Jean-Marc story. Let me, if you can entertain for a second, Nick, I'm going to pull this.
For those who don't know, we're breaking a 6-episode season into 3 volumes which is essentially a longer comic book. It's like, what do we do? 48 pages. So you've got episodes 1 and 2 in volume 1, 3 and 4 in volume 2, and 5 and 6 in volume 3. And it seems to work down. It works better for us, I think, in terms of making the book affordable for the customer base and trying to get it out quicker instead of waiting for an omnibus with all 6 issues, for the Saints anyway. And I'd like to go ahead and comment on, hey there, Blacklist Universe, good to see you. As far as what Gerald said, when Mitch and I sat down and looked at the Saints and we went through where we wanted it to go, the purpose of why we started making revisions and changing things is we wanted to have a cinematic feel. There's nothing wrong with comic books, but the point is to get this to the place where perhaps, inevitably it becomes part of a entertainment package outside of the book form. And it should read and move and have the feel of honestly, a television series or a film. And that's what we did, and I've lost Mitch. So you guys are stuck with me for a little bit. This is my study. This is where I live most of my life. So going back, we purposely tried to get it to where the scripts looked and read and felt like cinema rather than a comic book. And it's not a knock. It's just that's what we felt would work in order to engage the audience and make the projects undeniable for those who purchase IP for entertainment, electronic or cinematic entertainment. And that was the purpose, Gerald, of why it looks cinematic.
I'm having a booger of a time here.
We having tech issues?
Yeah, it's telling me to update my system preferences for screen recording, but it all is. So I don't know if you can share stuff, but
I don't think it's going to let me do anything. Settings, present, Leaf Studio having issues. No.
Unlock this screen by selecting the lock button.
I get to leave the studio. That's about it.
Uncheck it and recheck it. Restart Chrome.
If you restart Chrome, I might lose you. And he's gone. So, hi, it's me. So really, Gerald, that hopefully answers the question as to the reason why it looks the way it looks. Is that was a purposeful choice. You know, we see these projects, all of our books, as having potential for IP outside of book form. And I mean, that seems the way the business is going, and that's what we hope for. So, going back to Christian Rosado and his layouts, what I found with Christian is his interpretation of the drama of the story is very intuitive. I know this is sort of like egghead nerdy stuff, but he has a way of interpreting things, and we make it clear. Like when we write down, I just give attitude, like character X walks into a bar angry, character Y sullen. I give flavor. I don't really go into heavy detail because I want the artist to be able to interpret as much as possible according to what their intuition is. And Christian has a great intuition, so there's no point in hamstringing him with honestly irrelevant detail. It's just, to me, it just seems less collaborative. And it's not a form of laziness. It's so much as giving this guy the freedom to create what he sees in his head. And to be honest, things have come back that were way better than I imagined. That was the big shock, is you think your scene is going to be wonderful, and then you get it back. It's like, wow, I totally didn't imagine it that way, and it's way better than what I had thought. And that's when you have a great artist with you. And I think Christian Rosado is going to prove to be one of the great talents of this generation. I hope so. We have a lot of faith in him, and we think that he could very well do great work in the future. I mean, he's doing great work now, and every time we see him, he improves. So I'm waiting on Mitch. I'm going to take the time to talk about Dracula. I just saw Renfield, and I got to tell you, I liked it. I'm a Nick Cage fan. I had a good time. There's some odd casting choices. I don't want to get into it too much, but it was a lot of fun. If you love Nick Cage, you're going to love it. He dots all the I's, crosses all the T's. He's a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of great sight gags, a lot of blood, a lot of gore. If you're into that, you're going to have a lot of fun. I'm talking about Renfield now because you've left me abandoned.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I am totally taking over the channel.
No, that you're great. You're doing great. I
had a lot of fun. As I said, I'm going to refrain from getting into too many details because I don't want to spoil anything. A lot of great sight gags. There were some very odd casting choices that kind of brought the film down a little bit. And you should go see it anyway. I'm looking forward to going and see The Pope's Exorcist. Why? I don't know. And there's some other stuff coming out that should be good. There's one, I guess we're hitting a Dracula, rebirth, no pun intended. There's this thing, it's called The Last Voyage of the Dedemer, which is the ship that Dracula and Nosferatu boarded and sailed across the Atlantic and to get to London. And actually, it wasn't Atlantic. I apologize. To go around, I guess, the Straits and then into London. Over the channel, the English Channel. And basically, it's like, think about it like snakes on a plane, but with a vampire. So these people are trapped in this creature. Dracula is going around, killing everyone in sight. And so basically, this is what this film is about, and the effects look amazing. The talent looks amazing. There's some PC casting, so you might want to roll your eyes a little bit, but as a whole, it's pretty. Effects look brilliant, and the individual playing Dracula is made it to look more like Nosferatu than a traditional like Langella or the Bela Lugosi Dracula or any of the more suave guys. Definitely looks more like Gary Oldman in Coppola's Dracula when he's transforming. So we're having a Dracula demonology swing. So there you go.
How would you rate it, Nick?
Which one?
The Dracula?
Dracula?
No, the
Renfield.
Yes.
Renfield is a must-see with the caveat that some of the casting is a bit of a clunker. But I think everyone should go see it because Nick Cage, as always, is wonderful. Even if you only go for the matinee, he's worth the ticket price alone. He's that great. But I love Nick Cage, so it doesn't matter to me. I'll watch Nick Cage. And I've watched Nick Cage in some really horrific films. But I'm a huge Cage fan, as you can imagine. So we want to get back to the Saints?
I would love to. Let's get back to the Saints. I can't show anything right now because I've got, for whatever reason, I can only, my computer, which I'm about to throw out of the window, will only let me share another Chrome tab and nothing from my from any other application or Windows.
That's bizarre. How did Kathleen do it?
I don't know. I just assume Kathleen's much smarter than we are, or at least I am.
She has a knack. I would say if I was to give Kathleen a nickname, I would call her the Knack. That would be her mafia name. Kathleen the Knack Brignac. That's her mob name. She's the Knack because she's got a knack for everything.
What I wanted to show was page 1 of, or really the first few pages of The Saints, episode 1, which we released. It's been a little while now. I can't remember exactly when it came out. Last summer of
last year,
maybe, or October of 21. So I was watching a review today by a gentleman named John's Longbox, or a channel named John's Longbox. And John's been very nice. He reached out after we launched this campaign, and he's a fan of the books. And I watched he did a review. It turns out I totally missed this. And I need to, maybe we can get it up in the chat. Somebody can find it. John did a review about a year or so ago of the Saints episode 1 or volume 1. Forgot he even backed it. Didn't even really, it was a total surprise to him. It was just like a brutally honest review, which I love. So a complete virgin take on this project. So he opens up the book and says, okay, well, I kind of forgot I backed this, but the package was pretty neat. Cover's kind of cool. All right, let's crack it open. And I'm going to be, might fudge the quotes a little bit. He hated the first page, Nick. He's
really?
Like, hate the character. No, well, he didn't. Maybe not hate's a strong word. Didn't like the character. Not sure about the art. And I'm like, you didn't like the character? We've got you. That was the like I knew from that moment, I've got you. I've just got to hang in for 5 more pages till we hook him.
Hate is okay. It's when you hear meh, then you got a problem. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Cage.
No, he elicited a strong emotion, which was the exact.
That's what we want. Perfect.
Supposed to like this guy on page 1. He is
no,
not.
You're not. He's kind of a dick.
He's a dick.
He's a dick, man. Can we say? Yeah, of course we could say that. But I think that's really good that he had such that reaction. You should, because that means it's compelling, not necessarily pleasantly compelling, but compelling enough to where you have that reaction of, oh, I fucking hate this dude.
Yeah,
good. That's what you're supposed to do.
He was. I love the honesty in the approach to the review. Again, that's John's Longbox. Oh, we said a lot of things that were really wonderful about the book. Said it should sell 60,000 copies. Should be a movie. Didn't like the character at first. Was unsure about the art, but once he figured it out, once we kind of got to the setup, he's like, okay, I'm in. This ticks all my boxes. I get why this character is the way he's the lovable rogue, and I think that's a direct quote, right? I mean, it's a fun archetype to play with, right? It's
perfect.
Yeah, and
I couldn't have said it better.
Anyway, John's Long Box, great review. You guys should check it out. I'm going to be on John's channel on
actually
May 31st.
Both are.
Yes, so May 31st. Still a little ways out, and we'll remind you. And we'll be doing some other interviews and media and stuff, and we'll keep you guys abreast of all of that. But I'm really looking forward to talking to John's, since he really came at this with fresh eyes and became a fan simply by digging into the first 6 or 7 pages and saying, okay, you hooked me. I'm along for this ride. And I love that. That is what we do this for, Nick, at least for me personally. It's like, we did it right. You didn't like him, and now you're in.
Well, it's important to have fan engagement. You got to know what hits and doesn't hit. You know, it's sort of like any performer in a weird way. Is you got to know what plays and doesn't play. I think anyone who says, well, I don't do this for the audience, I do it for me, they're lying to themselves. This is, no matter how many units you sell, comics, films, music, whatever, they are mass. They are for a mass audience, mass being 5 and above. Otherwise, just keep it in the house and don't let anyone see it. We made 150. I knew it. Yay. Gerald has a comment. I know he's if you can make that happen, there he is. The key to getting a cinematic look and flow to comic is Christian uses reference for his work properly. Jose Gonzalez, the main Vampirella artist, a favorite of mine, did this, and I try to in my work. Actually, yeah, it's funny you should say that. In one of the scripts, it's script 5. I wrote in there that one of our characters is in a motel in Weehawken, New Jersey, which is very specific. It's a very specific type of hotel. And so Christian sends us back the pens and the inks. He nailed it. So you know he's going to these places, because some of my locations, the locations we have them in, are very specific. How he treats it is up to him. But there's a reason why I wanted to be in Weehawken, New Jersey. I can't explain it because it gives the thing away. But the fact is, he brought back, and he's got like the New York skyline in the background, and it was perfect. I'm like, this son of a gun. He looked it up. Butch Geis is another one who does it. The first time I read the first episode of The Futurist, he has an apothecary. And he looks at it, it's like, oh my God, it's Orson Welles from Chimes at Midnight. So of course I had to hit him up and ask him. And he could, he owned up to it right away. He goes, yeah, you caught me. It was such a spot on representation. And I love it when artists do that, because it's a form of shorthand that allows to draw the audience in. And I don't find it manipulative so much as I find it very welcoming. And I think, although Christian's style is very different than obviously Butch, I find that appealing because it's kind of like a nudge to the audience, like, say no more, say no more. At least that's how I view it. So yes. But thank you, Gerald. I'm glad you're looking forward to Volume 2. We're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and hit us with your questions too. We love answering you guys' questions on the Saints or anything Allegiance Arts or creative process, any of that kind of stuff. So we are here to serve.
Yeah.
And we're happy to lend our expertise to any number of creative topics, I suppose, Saints included.
I want to give a shout out to Keith. I hope I pronounce this right. Morange. I'm sensitive about pronouncing names because mine gets butchered. Hey, Keith. Keith gave us a cool shout out for the broadcast earlier, and so I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, we
By the way, he's a
appreciate
hell of
Keith.
an artist. Look him up on Instagram. He's really
Yeah,
good. And I wish
for
we had a
sure.
project going right now because we're in the middle of other stuff. I would love to work with him. I think he's that great. And I know I'm tipping my hand here, but I don't care. He's that damn good. He's got beautiful
Awesome.
work.
For sure. Another one of the things that John mentioned in his review, Nick, I'm going to throw this one at you, see what you do with it.
Go for it.
A Lovecraftian vibe to the Saints.
Lovecraft?
Lovecraftian, which is kind of more a Rooster thing. It was not ever.
I know. You know what? He's not wrong.
He's not.
He's
totally
not.
wrong.
I tell you why.
But it wasn't wrong.
Because when we started revising the scripts, I started referring to these creatures, these entities as the Ancient Ones, which is definitely straight out of Lovecraft. And I could see where some of the imagery has that almost like I don't say plural duality in terms of the world, but definitely a religious world that doesn't exist in our understanding of the major religions. This is something that is pre all that, and you could say it's like Mesopotamian or what have you. But I understand why John would say that, and I actually agree with him and we've sort of leaned into it a little bit with the story as it progresses and how they refer to these entities that they worship and utilize for their own being. And obviously there's a lot of tech in it, so we can't ignore the tech aspect of these creatures, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah.
No, that's a pretty astute observation.
No, I definitely had fun with that review. Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing a great number more. We have sold out, unfortunately, for some. I had a guy writing me today asking if he could squeeze in on this one, which is the Saints Volume 2 plus Volume 1 first edition. So we had 50 of those set aside, and there's very few that remain after that. So I think the last 50 customers that grab those will be very happy, but not to dwell too long on that. If you missed that, we have the Saints Volume 2 plus Volume 1 reprint. So this will be a reprint edition of Volume 1, which is, if I remember correctly, like a 52-page comic book. So it's hefty. And then the Saints Volume 2 is a 44-page. So combined, I think you've got a 96 pages worth of material coming at you in this perk.
Right. Well, what I like about this is, hang on a minute. Don't go off that there. I love all the covers, but I really like this alternate cover for the Volume 1 reprint. I think it's gorgeous. I mean, it's stunning. Christian Rosado. Now, if you look at his interior art, you look at his cover art, it shows that he is so versatile that I didn't realize he did it.
Yeah, that's right. You were surprised.
I had to ask. And this is how foolish I felt at our Monday. We have Monday meetings. And like a banana head, and I've been with the company 2 years now. So like, wow, the cover's great. Who did that? They're like, dude, Christian.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair,
like,
we commissioned that a little before you arrived here at Allegiance Arts. So,
but it's gorgeous. And I'm probably going to pop for one of those myself, just because I'd like to have one for me. And talk about bang for buck. You think about it, you're getting 52 pages, for essentially $15. And I really love this cover. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I hope everyone loves it as much as I do. The first cover is amazing, but this one to me is just, there's something about it. It hits me, just like the way this cover hits me.
Yeah,
the one you did with Butch. This is a Butch Geis, and Mitch did the colors. And if you knew how much he labored over the colors, and what I loved about it is that it looks like a cinema poster. And I know I'm laboring the point, but that is what we want with the Saints. We want it to have that very cinematic feel. And the cover, to me, it just dots all the I's, crosses all the T's, and it's gorgeous.
By
Butch Geis, of course.
When I
mean,
saw it,
look
I
at this
wish
thing.
I could pull up the inks for everybody just so they could see that. I'll have to post those on social media later. In fact, that would be a fun thing to do. And then coloring it was sheer joy the entire time. It took me a long time, and I did labor over it quite a bit. But it's by far one of the most satisfactory illustration experiences I've ever had. So
I love the texture in the upper right-hand corner. The team is tired of me bringing it up because I bring it up so often for some reason, and it's also mirrored down in the lower left. I just love the honeycomb effect. I can't tell you why I like it. I just love it. It's just one of those textures that just frickin' works, man.
Yeah, really. I mean, Christian kind of brought that in some of his earlier conceptual sketches. Again, I wish I could freaking show them. I actually have some.
We'll have to figure out how to do. Oh yeah, we should pull this up and look at some of his kick-ass
Christian's concepts. Why can't I? Things are acting screwy on me here. There we go.
Dude.
So Christian, in some of his early conceptual stuff, brought in these hexagonal patterns. And then on the cover of episode 1 or volume 1, he kind of gave these hexagonal armor things. Anyway, it's become kind of a thing about a thing in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of brought that in for this cover piece, it gives it that contemporary techie kind of look that we were going for. So This is another thing. And I'm stealing John's quotes. He had so many great quotes. He said, it's Indiana Jones as a social media influencer.
Jeez, this guy.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. I'm like, damn it, I wish I thought of that.
He nailed it. I loved it. But bringing sort of this type of archetypal character into the 21st century, our modern era, using the tools at hand to get his message out. And that's where we find the hero in episode 1, where the story picks up. Of course, then everything unravels, after the inciting incident, and his old world is gone. But yeah, this is some of Christian's early concept stuff.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Another thing that this one too was just a conceptual piece that he did before he got started on the book, just to get a flavor for the kinds of adventures we were going to have. This is sort of a promise of the premise image, like, hey, we're gonna explore some tombs and stuff's going to go sideways.
Yeah. Speaking of John, we need to send him an advanced copy so he can review it. So we'll have some focus when we meet with him.
That's a great idea, and I'm just going to put this out there to anybody else that is listening now or later. You have a YouTube channel, small or large, doesn't matter. We're definitely will make ourselves available to chit chat. We can send you some advanced stuff to look over, so you'll be knowledgeable. Obviously, we're very proud of this project, so happy to share it and get the word out about it, and donate our time, energy, and resources to helping you guys spread the word about it. I know we do have a lot of passionate fans about this particular book. So anyway, happy to accommodate anybody like that. Just we're pretty easy to get a hold of.
Mm-hmm. You can hit us up on social media as well. I respond to private messages all the time, as long as there's no creepy stuff, no funny business. But, we do answer things, and that's how I found out about Keith posting our stuff, or anyone else. We get it all the time. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Absolutely.
Yeah. 40% Zed. Hexagons are the most sci-fi of the gons.
I
like triangles too, but Christian went with hexagons, and so there we go. We have
I'm
a
down,
triangle on
man.
the cover. There's lots of to be honest, Christian really embraced this in the artwork, especially in episodes 3 and 4, volume 2, the one we're presenting here. He started adding lots of patterns and textures in the backgrounds, in the environments, and even in the arrangements itself. So he started pulling, and he would use these to create to complement character portraits. And I mean that as like we have a particular character that's maybe menacing, or one that's more provincial, or whatever it may be. Like a softer character will have some softer environments. He just uses patterns in the illustrations on couches, blankets. This second panel here, you can see in the background, this is a bar in Kathmandu. So it's got a ramshackled, the patterns are still there, but it gives you a lot of flavor. And on the one below it,
I love this.
The displays form a pattern that I love. Not so much in some of these others. On this scene in Tokyo, where we have, I forget the guy's name here. Anderson has a great scene. Honestly, Anderson's scene is worth the price of admission, in my opinion, even though he's a minor character. So this is Anderson in Tokyo, and what Christian did with the cacophonous layers of signage, neon, just the regular side alley, the kind of side alley cacophony of stuff, the visual that would visually overwhelm you in a place like this. And he was able to capture it in a very convincing way. This is one of the scenes where we got the art and we were just like, wow, like, yeah, just jumping up and down in our chairs.
Yeah. I'd like to highlight a point you made earlier about minor characters. We actually don't treat our characters like minor characters.
That's true.
Hey, Martin. We don't treat our characters like minor characters. And part of that for me is I went, because I went to film school, I had all this film theory and criticism that you indulge in. And one of my favorite film directors is a director called Doug Sirk. And during the 50s, he made what they call women's weepies or melodramas. And for some reason, his script writing and script writers, they would make the secondary characters, because you have like the two main characters, let's say like Lauren Bacall and Rock Hudson. And they were interesting, but not as interesting in the secondary characters like Dorothy Malone and Robert Stack, who were darker, more moodier. They held secrets. There was something about them. And so what we do is we have these characters who pop up and we flesh them out and try and create this world where they are just as they're as involved as the main characters, because they help, for lack of a better word, help the lead characters traverse the story, and they add to it. And that was a purpose decision in discussing, like, where did we want the Saints to go? I'd like to take as much credit as I can for that, but the truth is we came to the same conclusion independently, that if you're going to have a character, make them as interesting as you can. And there should be something in it that has, I don't know, a gesture, a bit of business, something that makes this world vibrant. We got a fun scene at a crash site. We can't get into it, but the deputy makes an ass out of himself. And it's funny because life is, it's interesting. People are just, they don't walk, a person doesn't walk up to you and start talking in ridiculous dialogue.
Right. Of course.
There's a flow to it.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm going to keep coming back to John's review because it's fresh on my brain and I watched
for it, man.
He said the same thing. He said these characters talk like real people, real, just it pulls. He said I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but he said that he said it was the best written crowdfunded comic he's ever read, and he said the characters are real, the places are real, the plot is engaging, and the characters are what helps you fall into that. But the dialogue should not. I'm of the opinion, and I'm not. I mean, I did create Red Rooster, which has some. It has some intentionally kind of. I wouldn't. Maybe hokey's not the right word.
It's
right?
of its time.
Of the time, and he was also a character playing a hokey character. He was a man playing a hokey character, but a real man under the mask, right? That's complicated and complex. And so unraveling that character out of the mask character was how you fell in the through the setup into the midsection of Golden Age. And the book gets, more sophisticated as that unraveling occurs. It was the goal. But I am a major proponent of that. It's something that Allegiance has been about since the get-go. If you're fans of all of our books, you notice we don't use a lot of thought balloons. We don't use a lot of internal narration, right? So inner monologue stuff does not happen. I don't know that we've ever done an inner monologue, Nick.
We have a rule. There's no thought bubbles.
Yeah, it's these things should be that the books, the kind of stories we're trying to tell, and the kind of characters we're trying to create, and the kind of flow we're trying to capture from scene to scene requires that the characters speak to each other realistically and in a tone that is I don't know how you describe it, Nick, but I mean,
vernacular has to match the setting.
Yes.
And that's why I think Rooster's a little challenging, because to me it's like those films. If Rooster was made into a film, it would be made during the pre-code era of cinema, which is like, silent films up till about 36. Some people think 37, 38, but really like 36. And so things are a little more risque, but you had also that what we would consider today very stilted dialogue. People who were well off spoke in that mid-Atlantic accent that really doesn't exist except in cinema, and then people adopted it. Like Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis. I mean, no one freaking talks like that in real life. Maybe Katharine Hepburn did, but if you actually listen to her interviews, not really. Everything was heavily mannered. You had the old shucks hokey, sort of, I guess down home kind of accent with a down home kind of dialogue. But if you think about it, in many ways that was reflected in society. And you can say that Louis B. Mayer created a visual form of America that actually really didn't exist during the Depression, except on screen. So what we try and do is make sure that our vernacular matches the setting, and everyone does that. I don't think that's that unique. Right. But like I'll do a lot of research on sayings. Like
but we're deliberately keeping some of those tools. The tools. We're deliberately keeping some tools in the toolbox, right? The tools that like the inner monologue and the thought balloons. Like we're just saying, okay, we can act. These are tools you can use to make comic books, and they work great in some comic books. But we're choosing to use a different set of tools for these. It creates what is, even though we're working with a lot of different creatives, very much a house style, right? A house voice that goes across these productions, and in the same way that a lot of filmmakers have a particular voice, and you see it and understand it immediately. If it's a Wes Anderson film, like on frame one, pretty much like you're getting in for, no matter which film it is. Our books just have a particular cadence, and that's one we're very proud of. And these are all deliberate decisions that were made at the get-go.
Yeah, we don't pre-code films are underappreciated in general. Damn straight, Skippy.
Yeah.
And they are hard. To be honest, some are really hard to watch, even for me. Some silent films are challenging to watch. But it's like going to a museum and seeing an artist of a bygone era. Yeah, you have to look at the mores of the time. And we talk about that. You know, would this happen in 1930s Big Town? Would this happen during the, I guess for the lack of better, the British controlled India? Hail the saints. Amen. Amen. And look at DC Alonso. Look at him, man.
Yeah, another very talented guy here, DC Alonso.
Freaking
Congratulations!
brilliant.
Yes, we've very much enjoyed watching him grow as an artist and now doing some just really nice, stunning work. Congratulations
Beautiful
for all
color.
you're doing. It is incredible. The best comics of these times and super entertaining and exciting comics. Christian's art in this series is very, very top. Yes, totally agreed. Thank you so much, DC.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of film and before we move on, I want the audience to know a little bit more about Nick Amendolare here, who's been working with us, Allegiance Arts brand, and me personally as a creative partner here for the last 2 years. Nick is a little too humble. He says he went to film school and kind of brushes it off. Well, Nick went to London Film School. Nick has worked on a lot of incredible productions, starting with The Fifth Element, I believe, in the art department, and then moving on
actually,
to...
my first film was, and I'm dating myself, I was an intern on The Last Emperor while in London.
Whoa.
Yeah, I love Bertolucci, and I'm conflicted, who passed away, and I'm very conflicted because of how he treated Maria Schneider during Last Tango in Paris. And of course, no one knows. And holding someone accountable for actions, 30, 40, 50 years ago by today's standards, I think is a little, it's like picking low hanging fruit. So I have a lot of conflict about him as a hero of mine, but I wanted him to speak at film school, and I got him to speak because I ran the Film Society. I was like one of those overachieving students. I was president of student union, ran the Film Society, and I am hounding their office, Jeremy Thomas's office, to get him to speak. Finally got him to speak. And so he's there, and it was a big hit, and our theater is packed, and he signed posters, and it was awesome. And I kind of played it cool because I didn't want to like glom onto the dude, which he gets a lot. And so he comes up to me and we finally have a moment. Like no one's around except like one friend. And he's like, Nick, I have a friend in America. I'm sure you'll know him. Now, I spent a year in Italy, okay, before going to film school in London. And every person in Italy is like, I got a cousin in America. I'm sure you know him. It's like they think we know everyone in America. And he says, no, I'm not sure you know him. He's an Italian American, just like you. My friend, Francis. I'm like, Francis Coppola. I'm sure you know him. I'm like, yeah, I know him. He goes, but Nick, please, don't get a fat like Francis. So my hero is telling me don't get fat like another hero. And at the time I had a beard and I was a little heftier because I hadn't shaved and I was tired and stuff. And, when you let yourself go. And so I managed to get my way onto the film as an intern in publicity. So basically I did whatever the hell they told me. I show up at the office. Here, go mail this, go do that. There was like no onset experience because it was all in China. And the film was wrapping up by the time really I was there. So that really technically is my first job in London. My first job. I was an extra in Something Wild with Jeff. God, I can't remember his name. Melanie Griffith, Jonathan Demme directed it. Jeff, he was in Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, gosh, dog! It was the name I was thinking about too. I'll have to look it up.
I know, now I don't remember. And he was funny on set. He was cool and would talk to us. And he said something cool because I went to
Daniels.
Florida.
Jeff Daniels.
Daniels, super nice guy. And I'm sitting there and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, Florida State had a baseball team." And I'm not a baseball guy as much as a football guy. And we have a prominent football program. He goes, "Hey, you been checking out any of the baseball games?" Yes, Gerald, we did in fact study Ozu in school.
What is Ozu? Because my experience
Ozu is
with Kurosawa, and it's pretty deep. I love Kurosawa.
You can make the argument he's the John Ford of Japan.
I
Still
thought that's
camera.
what Kurosawa was. But
no, not really.
Not really.
Kurosawa was influenced by John Ford, but Kurosawa would. I can't do the camera really wouldn't go like put the camera up to your waist.
Mm-hmm.
The camera rarely left that framing,
and
you should look at his stuff. He filmed the way a lot of the Japanese life was. You know, the way people sit. They sit at the table. They sit on the floor, and his films are beautiful and they're elegant. And they deal with very deep things. And I enjoyed it. I found out Ozu through this guy, Mike Ryan, who was from Queens. And he's like, "How the hell are you here in school and you don't know anything about Ozu?" I'm like, "Geez, Mike, I'm sorry, all right." And I got hooked. And I started, because I ran the Film Society, I started booking all these Ozu films, including his silent films. And he did some films that were like the Japanese version of The Little Rascals. That's how we started out, doing these like wacky comedies. But where was I? Going back to Jeff Daniels. So he kind of scolds me a little bit. He goes, "Hey, have you been checking out your baseball team?" I go, "No, I haven't." He's like, "You guys are awesome. I went to like a game the other day. You guys just knocked it out of the park. I'm like, "Oh my God." He kind of gave me a little shit about not following our school's baseball team. It was actually damn funny. But he was super nice. So that technically was my first job in film, was as an extra on Something Wild.
I did not know that. I thought,
well, I don't really
like your first thing.
No, Fifth Element was actually after I directed and produced my first two features.
Oh, okay. So I've got your timeline a little turned around. That's awesome.
Well, because my timeline is whacked.
Well,
it's like, if you think about it.
Mine is too, for sure.
Yeah, I don't talk too much about it because I'm like, it's in the past.
I know. I get what you're saying. Like, I don't even put like my Marvel credits on my social media profile or anything, because it's like that was a lifetime ago to me, and it's like,
yeah,
here we are now, and this is what we're excited about and proud of, and represents the best that we have to offer, our best work. So it's sort of eyes ahead, march forward, and keep chiseling the stone, to mix a bunch of metaphors.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think when we first met, it wasn't so much like, well, why do you want to work for us? It's more like, well, so why do you want to work for us? And so, what does he say down there? Daniels, thanks, Martin. And I got to the place where I realized certain projects, like I have a niece. She lives in Denmark with her family. She can't see it. I produced 2 seasons of Chris Angels. Her parents aren't going to let her watch that.
Right.
They're not going to let her watch Bridezillas. I spent also a lot of time producing reality shows. I mean, they couldn't. And I don't want anyone to think that I had some huge moral shift or epiphany. But it's one of those things where I went, geez, dude, I don't want to be known for this. I wanted something of substance. And I want to get it back into writing, because even though my positions were story positions, it wasn't the same as actually sitting and you wrote the story, you post-scripted a lot in reality, which we have done, which came in handy for us, like with certain artists we work with. But I wanted to be part of something that had substance and value. And I understand that seems like a cliche, but for me, it was important because I hit a certain age where I'm like, dude, if I don't right this ship now,
Yeah.
I'm going to be forever known as this guy. And when Kevin Gray, I will
Yeah.
say this: anyone watching, you don't know where your life's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to Allegiance through two people: Graham Nolan, who I went to high school with, and Kevin Grevious, who I put in one of his first features. Graham Nolan was ahead of me in school. He was like a year or two ahead of me. And we met in an art class. And he was in Mrs. Field's art class. He was in this little room where the older students were, and honestly, the better students, and we had some great talent in that room. And because I'm nosy, I went into the little room because I have a little FOMO, to be honest, and I had it then. And I saw him. His back was to the door, so I could see what he's drawing. He's doing this on Bristol board, this illustration, or not illustration, but panels of a Spider-Man cartoon, doing his own in the style of Steve Ditko. And I'm like, dude, you know Steve Ditko and Spider-Man? And he's like, yeah. And he was telling me how he planned to go to the Joe Kubert School and all this stuff. And, we say hello every now and then. So he posts this thing saying that Allegiance is looking for writers. So I hit him up privately. Hey, listen, man, sorry to bother you. Do you think I should work with these guys? He's like, yeah, absolutely. They're great. They're honest. They're lovely people. And that's rare in this business. So I go to their website and I see Kevin Grevious has written Bass. So I hit him up. Kevin, blah, blah, blah. He's like, in Kevin's voice, bro, you have to work with these guys. In fact, I'll hook you up. I'm like, come on, man. He goes, I said, really, you do that? Thank you. He goes, please, please. So the point is, you never know who you're going to meet and how your life goes. Mm-hmm. So try your best to always do right by others, because, man, if I was a flaming jackass, both of them could be like, Mitch, stay clear of this guy.
Yeah.
He's a chode.
And, so we had one meeting because Kevin writes us, says, hey, look, I've got an old chum I want to introduce you to. He's a writer, very talented, give him give him have a meeting, do a meeting, right. Take the meeting. And at the time, Patrick Stiles was still with the company. He's my frequent collaborator and co-creator on a couple of these projects. And so we take the meeting, and I can't remember how long it was, Nick, but it was very lovely. I don't even remember what we discussed other than
everything.
We came away with a sense that we like, this is a likable guy who knows his stuff. He's experienced. And I can't remember if we had a second meeting before I hired you to do.
I'm sure of it.
I think we had two meetings. I think because the second meeting was like, hey, this is the project. Let's talk about creativity, our approach to process, and explaining a little bit more about the nature of the brand and the kind of stories we want to tell, and making sure it was your thing, right? I mean, I didn't want to bring somebody into this. We don't want to work with anybody that isn't on board with,
you have to get it. You have to get the material.
Right. Yeah. And the company at large has a particular direction and even though all the books are very, very different, we do have a guiding philosophy, mission, for lack of a better term, I suppose. And, I came away with that, and Nick is all on board. And then I hired you to script a project that we're going to get to one day called Red Rooster Legacies. So Red Rooster Legacies was something that I had dreamed up in the early days of getting promoting Red Rooster, making the book. And this was a long view of the history of the Red Rooster through a series of narrative vignettes, I guess, you could say, through time, ultimately arriving to a
Frank Cooper,
and giving you the backdrop of what the rooster verse is all about, right? What does it mean to be a red rooster? Where does this come from? And it went through a narrative throughout some time. Yeah. Through the vignette or through the lens of a few different characters. And, we dug into that and had some really great meetings around it. And at the time, Nick I don't believe you'd ever really written a comic book necessarily. You had a lot of experience as a writer, and that was self-evident. But then I remember those early days of you picking up really quickly. Oh, I get, okay. You got so much real estate. It's got to turn here in the middle, and then you got to hook them at the end. So they turn the page, and then the process repeats and builds on each other. And then us working through that cadence of how to take a great story and turn it into a great comic book. And I remember that being so much fun.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Because I was learning from you and you were learning from me. And it was just a really fun process. And I cannot wait to be able to revisit that material.
The challenging thing was, I remember your first note is, Nick, these characters don't move through the panel like a film, right?
Yeah.
I kind of went, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're limited in some ways.
I just kind of went, what the hell was I doing? Hang on, I got to turn another light on. It's getting dark here.
Sure.
So I remember thinking, holy cow, I've got to really do some rethinking here. And now, I mean, even though, listen, today I missed a beat. We talk about, look, you need another beat here. You need this. You miss stuff. You wonder how much you can get away with in a frame,
mm-hmm.
And it's easy to forget that someone's got to draw all this stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're having fun, but dude, it's a job of work to get a comic book done by an artist. They're not banging this stuff out in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. These guys got to put in a real effort.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not trying to dumb it down to make it easy, but you've got to give them stuff to work with. Otherwise, you're just you're not giving them an avenue for success. I think that's probably the best way to say it, is you've got to give these guys the ability to succeed. So yeah, it's funny. It was a good learning curve. So
yeah, it was fun. And then you joined the company as editor in chief not too long after. It all happened pretty quickly because we had the need, and
yeah,
I felt pretty strongly that the man for the job had already arrived, and we were already working with you on this project. And it honestly
was good stuff.
Was heaven sent.
That's how I view it. That's how
I'm liking Gerald Lang here more and more. He's a very thoughtful fellow. I like this comment a lot. I think the key to making comments is first to be passionate about your characters and book, then understand you're a business, which tempers the passion to a market, and sell the book, and then be professional. Jeez. So I think those are pretty good rules of thumb. I think somebody's put a lot of thought into, Gerald's put a lot of thought into how to succeed at making great comic books.
He's actually been on this live stream a number of times, and his comments are always like, he contributes. He's not like saying nonsense. He always contributes. Christian Rosado, holy cow, there he is, ladies and gentlemen.
I hope
Hail the Saints.
Is it the Christian Rosado? I sure hope so.
I think it's the only one. Let us know if this is really you, man.
Yeah, let us know if it's you, Christian. And we'll. That's awesome. Sometimes people can come on and create like a name, and
dude, I have that book on directing film by David Mamet. I bought it in college.
Oh yeah, you've talked about David Mamet quite a bit.
Oh my God,
conversations.
I was one of those devotees. I got my undergrad degree at Florida State in theater, and so everyone loved Mamet. Sam Shepard and Mamet. Sam Shepard and Mamet. There's all those who love like Tennessee Williams, which you should love. because he's a great artist. But then there were more edgier dudes like myself. Everything was Sam Shepard and David Mamet, you know. And that's probably where, if you read any of my work, my love of ellipses came from David Mamet.
Oh, and we use them quite often in these scripts. So
I use them a lot, and
I found them to be very they're a fun way to thread two scenes together or create pregnant pauses in conversations, especially in comics. Or it's a fun tool to use. It's one of my favorites.
I probably overuse them, but that's just me. You know, I love them
every time. Like a character sets up something.
Yep.
And then turns to the whatever and delivers that last line, and you need that pregnant pause, and you need that visual break, right, to connect it. And it's when those moments connect in a script, it's a lot of fun to read, especially as a comic book, because then your mind is one of the funnest things about reading a comic is how your mind fills in the gaps between the panels. And if a comic's structured well, and in both script and art, then it makes that even more fun, because it's like, damn, they did it, they got it, I'm hooked. That moment landed.
You brought up something. I think if someone said to me, like, I'm in a bar, I'm drinking, and maybe I'm a little loose, well, what did you learn from Mitch? You know, what name something you learned from Mitch. I go, let the audience do the thinking sometimes. Let them fill in the blanks. Because sometimes I would overwrite it and not dumb it down, but like to make sure I'm being clear. And sometimes you got to learn to let the audience fill in the blanks. And I'll be honest with you, that's a learning curve I'm still grasping with. We talked about it today. Does this scene land? Does this line land? And have I overwritten it? And so we're crafting a scene today in episode 6. It's like, Nick, I think the audience can fill in the blank here. And I could tell I was struggling with it. And he just kind of eased me into, like, let the audience. It's not that I'm trying to control stuff. I want to make sure that I'm clear for them. I don't mislead people. And so you've got it's a discipline I'm still learning. When to allow the audience to fill in the blank.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to go through that process with you. And we do. Maybe we could just illuminate the audience a little bit on how we work together.
Go for it.
It's a little different each time and for each different project. For instance, generally we start with a treatment. So Nick and I will sit down and just have some discussions. Hey, here's what we're thinking. It may be a number of discussions, usually no more than 2 or 3.
And I take notes so we don't lose, because I can't stress this enough. Don't rely on your memory.
Yeah.
Writing is a craft.
I do that a lot. And that's, this is why you make a great, we have a great partnership. So, for me, it's like, I write things down more now, but before I would just kind of let my brain work as a filter, and what caught, and what didn't would wash out. But when it came time to actually getting the rubber hits the road, you got to write stuff down.
Got to write stuff down, man.
A lot of my stuff would just exist in sketchbooks with little scribbles and notes, and like not really formal. I wouldn't sit down on a computer. Instead, I like to like jot little things in the sketchbook, and it'll be like 1 word or 2 words just to like remind me next to a drawing, just because that's how my brain catalogs things. Which is probably not the way a normal brain catalogs things. I just have a very visual, spatial set of skill sets, I suppose. But Nick and I will discuss, what are we going to achieve here? What is what are the beats? What are the major beats? What are the characters going to go through in this episode? What's going to impact the audience the most? What do we tell versus what do we show? And we work through the most of the thing fairly loosely, defining maybe not page by page, but at least scene by scene, right?
Yeah, we talk about theme without talking about theme. I know it sounds contradictory, but we try. Hey, that it is him. Hey, man,
Awesome.
we're getting you on.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we're going to do another one, and you're coming on
Yeah, I
because
think that's going to be a big hit.
I think that we're at a point where people need to know you really exist, and
Yeah.
so I think we're past that point. People need to see you have a face. You're really a person, and because otherwise, it's like, well, who are they talking about?
Well, it's just this AI bot we hired out of Peru, you know.
You know? Yeah, he doesn't ask for a lot, so we're gonna keep him around.
I'm surprised we haven't got that accusation yet. This artist isn't real. You must be using AI.
And his photo down below, you pulled it off of like some stock photo place, like iPhoto or something.
Oh no, this is just an elaborate plot.
Yeah,
right. This is all me.
Because apparently we
created Christian Rosado whole cloth and all the way down to his social media profiles. And
yep, his family. We invented a family for him.
yeah,
he's got kids.
But it's all AI.
Yeah. He used to be a soccer player, hurt his knee, then he started drawing, and you know how that is. So going back to it, like when we were redoing Red Rooster, it's like, well, what we talk about everything. Location. What were the times like? What are the times like? What's the milieu we're in? What is going on in the world around them? How does it impact the people in this world? What is a historical shift? What's going on in the history? A lot of time is spent world building. I guess that's the term that seems to be used the most. And we talk about theme without like coming up with a theme. Like the theme is, love. The theme is betrayal.
Well, it's really a theme on each particular scene. Like what is each scene? I mean, the book has a set of rules. It lives in a particular world, and each one of our worlds is slightly different, and the rules are slightly different. I mean, Nora is so wildly different from the Saints, but yet somehow it works under the same brand, in my opinion. But
and I know with Mitch, the important thing is every scene has to have some form of a conflict.
Yes, that's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's I probably hammered. I mean, I felt a little weird talking to Nick at first because I'm talking to someone who has a lot more experience writing than I do. But I'm like, here's what we do. Like it's conflict on every page in every panel. If there's nothing going on, then put two characters at it, like, and see where the fireworks go. And because almost always that starts solving problems. And that's something I really learned from working with Patrick more than anything, as we were trying to craft like the futurists and whatnot. So you just conflict's
got to be there. And for me, both characters have to come from a place where they're both right in their mind. Even if one is morally repugnant. We were working on something today and it didn't really pop until we massaged the hell out of it, but both thought they were doing right. And you have to know your characters. And I do think a character should have a moral spine, if you will. It doesn't have to line up with our worldview. It doesn't have to line up with the audience's worldview. But they have to be so committed to what they believe, even if they're wrong morally based on what is an accepted morality. Their choosing of this path will bring destruction to them. So there's an outcome or pain
or change, right?
Or
if it's
change.
Hero, I mean, in the case of Jean-Marc, an unlikable character on page one who has a lot of growth, right? But sometimes those flaws become the perfect thing needed for others to succeed, So
I'm not opposed to characters not growing as long as their consequences line up, like sowing and reaping. You reap what you sow. Now, as long as it lines up with that, then I'm cool. If it's just, a tepid character, well, why are you bothering to have him in the book or in the story? It just makes no damn sense. Unless they're cowardice or unwillingness to bend, whatever it is, brings about an undesirable result, something that causes, something to happen. A character can be a cause agent, even if they're not that dynamic. It just has to make sense for the audience, is what I think, if that helps. And
Yeah.
so today we were working on something that it was clear what they needed, what both wanted. It's just there was an elegance that was missing, and we pared down the dialogue, and it ended up being stronger because the turn needed to be at the right time. I think that's kind of how it went, right?
Really, that's it. And I talk about this a lot, Nick. There's a sense of timing in comics that's not dissimilar to musical composition, and there's a flow. Each book has a slightly different flow, right? But for me, it's like, okay, today we had a 2-page thing. I would say, I say this, it was kind of an overwritten in a lot of ways, right?
Oh, it's the first thing I said. Yeah, it was overwritten.
It was
100%.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because as we leave the treatment process, Nick goes away and writes out a scene or two, and then comes back and is like, hey, let's have a discussion around these sequences. It can be often the case, and I think it's actually a really wonderful thing, because it's always easier to pare back, to override and pare back. And then so many times, Nick, we'll start working through the dialogue and the panels and the images, and you find that one, like, we'll sort of like skim it, and it's like, there's a line on panel 4, and it's like, what if we move that line to panel 1? And then it changes the entire thing, because it's like, well, if we open it here, there's tension, there's conflict. This starts an argument, and then we can use panel 5 later to basically what you call a turn, like the pace of that scene changes, or the tonality of the scene changes dramatically as you realize, oh, this character is about to be murdered, or this character is about to be eaten by a tiger, or whatever the case may be, and then you're invited to turn the page after that.
The turn is a big deal. The turn is a big deal because the scene needs to change, and I try and get it by panel 4 or 3. I know for some people that's like, oh, dude, that's too regimented. Well, you only have so much real estate. Okay. And if you have conflict, you got to have resolution. Even if the resolution is 3 pages down, there's got to be enough moments to get to that resolution or a continue of the conflict. So, like with this one, we were seeing, well, how does this conversation change that leads to this outcome? And in the end, we ended up doing it earlier than what is usually the way we work it. And it ended up being better. And I know for me, I'm still having a learning curve here with, well, when does it turn? And people go, well, let the scene play. It's, well, yeah, you can do that, but sometimes that's not always good. And the discipline is being willing to cut things that you fell in love with at the first draft that don't work. I think anyone who says my first draft of this is the best, I wonder if they've been drinking, because I just don't buy that. And I'm a Kerouac fan, and he was, my first draft's always the best. Well, that's not really true. And he was really disingenuous about that, because he rewrote a lot.
Right. Yeah.
There's people lie. It's like
material in that.
Yeah. A lot of his novels, his better novels, he rewrote. He edited himself as well, and he had an editor. So it's a lot of baloney, I think. I think that's why writing is considered a craft.
Yeah. I want to compare that, Nick, to drawing, right?
Yeah.
Because especially as a really experienced illustrator, sometimes, more often than not, you do a sketch, and that raw sketch, that raw drawing that just came right out, has a wonderful energy to it. It captures a lot of what you are trying to say. And then the really difficult part of of illustration for me is maintaining or enhancing. It's really difficult to enhance the energy of that first impression, but capturing what worked in that impression and then holding it, giving it structure and weight and modeling and hopefully more dynamism. But that's just to draw a little bit of a parallel, right? It's not necessarily easy, but that's the work. The work is taking that spark that worked on your draft, that made this a complete sketch, the thing that worked that inspired us to sit and write a treatment, the thing that, but from our experience, that's just the beginning of the work, right? You got to go in and be I've called it bullshit. Like you're a jeweler. You are chiseling a fine diamond. You're kind of working this thing in the round until it has hard edges and crisp lines. And I'm talking about like, in the reference of cutting a diamond, right? I mean, you're going in the round and working it, looking at it, turning it upside down, putting it in a different light, looking for the flaws and just going until that thing just turns and glistens on every side and in every facet. And to me, that's the allegory I like to use for storycraft in comics, especially. And I think the same translates to other media.
Yeah, there are things that, like, we were working on Rooster, and you had this layout and thing. I just loved it, but you threw it out. You weren't into it. It didn't work in your mind, and I wanted to kill you because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know which one you're talking about, and I'm like,
I know, and I fought, and I'm like going, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be willing to be that hard on yourself, because truth of the matter is, story-wise, it didn't really work. It was just not a knock, a beautiful illustration. I want to see it happen again. It just didn't belong in the story. And like when we're talking about going back to how we work, we talk a lot. I think the best visual storytelling is a balance of tight dialogue, action, or decisions in the panels with open panels in between them to give time to breathe and work in the reader's head and experiences. We're both fans of non-dialogue panels. Sometimes you can't get away with that, but we're trying. Because sometimes the look, the drama of the character, especially with Christian, hopefully he's still watching, you don't want to detract from the drama of the character's expression. So we sit there and we hammer out the beats. And for some people, they find it odious. And I understand. I used to be against it too. And now, more so, I've embraced it because I had to in other areas of my career where it's like, well, you just need to get used to it, dude. It's because you got to know rough idea where you're going. But the thing I would say to anyone is, if you don't know if you don't know your characters, you don't know what they're going to do. And you hear, like, I know Quentin Tarantino has said, if you know your characters, the script will write itself. I don't necessarily believe that, because I do think you have to guide it. But I understand what he means by that.
Yeah, I get it. I get what he's saying.
It's actually not it's a good comment. It's a layman's term of saying that if you don't know, like, we may know the beginning and the end, to be honest. And we're like, well, what happens in the middle? I mean, what are we doing here? But we try and beat that out. And then I'll go away. I'll write the first draft. We go through it. This works, that works. I try and get it as close to tight as I can, to be honest, for the sake of time. I don't like to turn in things that are like, well, it's a rough sketch. That's not... I don't like doing that personally.
No,
people work the way they want to. And then what happens when Mitch will go, well, look, here's why I think this works and it doesn't. And that's when he lays out stuff. Like he did some layouts for the Saints before Christian got the script. It's like, look at it this way, and we'll talk about it. And I'll go, oh yeah, I see what you mean. And then I got to go and I make notes because I do Movie Magic screenwriter version 6, and you have a note module, if you will, and you make notes. And then I'll go away, and then we'll do another pass, and then we'll start tweaking dialogue. And there's time to work separately, and there's a lot of time on the phone. I shouldn't say on the phone, on Zoom. And we go through every freaking thing.
Yeah.
And
some of it is like, I mean, in the case of the last script we've worked on here, this episode 6, we did some rearranging, like quite a bit. We had some ideas, and they were good ideas. The ideas that the ones that sold us in the treatment phase landed in the script, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Like it took work to get them there, right? But these ideas that we floated, hey, wouldn't it be fun if, or wouldn't this be a great moment for Jean-Marc, or what if we had this, how much I can spoil, what if we did this with these characters? Wouldn't that be fun? I guess I'm going to keep it really loose.
I will say,
when those moments make it through, it's like, holy cow.
I will say this. Nora's already been published, so we're at the ranch and we're talking about what the hell to do with Nora. And we didn't like the script. Kelsey didn't like it. We felt that there needed to be something, and so we're talking about this character, and we're talking about this spell that Loki puts out. It's like, well, what happens? I go, well, what if his spell impacts the Vikings somehow? And Mitch goes, what if they fall asleep? He's like, oh my God. Yeah. And then he drew out what this double-page spread would look like to get the action. And we talked about, well, think of it like a montage. This beat, this beat, this beat. And honestly, I rewrote the script based on his layout. And then we filled it in. And it's one of those comments where someone will throw something out that's like just freaking outlandish, and you think in your brain it's stupid until you voice it, and you're like, no, that's it. And that's one of them is, and then I remember the other one is like, well, how do they overcome it? Milk thistle, that's it. I don't know what the hell milk thistle is, but he did.
Yeah, They did.
So that's how that came about. Was you're talking, and then someone will blurt something, and sometimes you don't even remember who the hell this one I remember, because I remember where I was sitting in that kitchen at that long table, going, "What the hell are we gonna do?"
Yeah, because we were working with a particular problem, and the problem was Nandor didn't have his moment.
He didn't have his moment, and the other thing was, well, this guy Loki, the Fostergrim is singing this thing, not Loki, I apologize. It's the Fostergrim. He's singing this song. Well, what if it impacted the Vikings? Okay, well, how? He puts them to sleep. And then I wrote this silly song, the lyrics I stole from the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner by
and it works so well.
Coleridge, and it works. Basically, I didn't plagiarize all of it, but it's enough. And
it played so well. I remember when because I was like, well, what is it? This, in theory, I see the beats. You and I and Kelsey all agreed it worked, but like there was no song. Like, it's like, well, how does this? And then you brought this really, I think it wasn't more than it definitely wasn't a week later. It was probably just a couple of days.
I don't think it was even a day.
Yeah. Then you came back with this song, and it worked. It was one take. It was like, okay, it fits, and it fits in every single beat, and then it lands right where it needed to land. So it was like, wow.
Kelsey did a bang up job, and it looks amazing.
It's one of those, it's not rare if you work hard at it, but it is rare in some ways. It's special. Maybe it's just special.
But I think that's how we work. Is someone someone will blurt, and don't be afraid of those moments. Like the joke I make is I'm Mitch's work wife and vice versa. And like sometimes he'll like say something and he'll like, no. It's like, what are you doing? That instinct is good. And like we have to talk each other. Like today he had to talk me in off the ledge because I thought I went too far in something, and he read it yesterday, he liked it, and I'm like, God, I feel like I left so much. And I felt that I overrode it, which I did. And it just bugged me. It bugged me all night. And by the way, I'm going to address Gerald. Yes, Gerald, I subscribe to the Criterion Collection, and they have a directed by David Lynch month, and I watched not Inland Empire, Lost Highway yesterday. Very hard to sit through at night
for me, but for that's
a tough one.
Yeah.
But so I just had a real rough time with it. And, there's a flow back and forth. Look, the instincts are good. It's just it's not executed yet. And we had to pull it apart, but it wasn't a horrible experience. And so if you have a collaborator, make sure you guys can blurt. And just sometimes the dumbest thing will come out of my mouth and it works. Or I think it's dumb. Or I don't think it's very... Another word you'll hear us say is this germane to the scene? And going back to Mammoth, if there's anything that is not what the scene is about, you chuck it. And so sometimes one of us will say something and we ask, is this germane? And it ends up being the thing we've missed. That it just came out. It just sprung out. What's that? What's he saying?
Is the spoiler over? Can I come back? Yes, spoiler is over. The spoiler is over.
I haven't gotten it yet. La 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 la. Yeah, you're totally good.
Zed has not read Nora's Saga yet, so he's.
Oh snap! I'm so sorry, man.
It wasn't a major spoiler, I think. Hopefully, it was just.
I'm so sorry.
Cool. The first 2023 Mitch live stream. Yeah. A second.
Is it?
I guess our second live stream. Is it 2023?
This guy, Comic 1C Book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you have a YouTube channel, we may have reached out to you. I'm waiting for a signed copy, so I blame Kelsey.
It should be on its way.
I'm just going to let that hang there. I'm not saying squat. Thank you, Zed.
Thank you.
If Comic iBook, if you have a YouTube channel or something, we'd love to be on it. I appreciate you hopping on here. We may have already reached out to you. If not, I will do my best to get your contact info and we'll come up and talk to the Saints or whatever you want to talk about. But we've developed a flow, and I don't know if I'm describing it accurately. Sometimes, to be honest, best idea works.
That's another thing that's in the handbook of Allegiance Arts. The best idea wins. I mean, it's like we said it so many times.
That's it.
And it's whoever we're working with, Kelsey, Kathleen, when we're doing design stuff and we're doing design and layout, like which is generally, mine and Kat's department. But then Nick will come in with a curveball every now and again, and it's just like, whoa, okay, yeah, best idea wins there too, and it's like let's roll with that. And actually Nick's really great at copy. We've done so many. We wear so many hats in this business. I think another thing we say often. This is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Another thing we say often is we could make a fortune. What is it you say about we could write copy? Like we could write copy in our sleep at this point, like marketing copy.
Yeah, we'd be good at marketing. Not necessarily market ourselves, but market others as well. Because we're good at creating copy. I think everyone's a wordsmith to a certain extent.
Of course. But
And
there's
that does play in our scripts. It's a bummer. It's a bummer we don't publish these, because you would see what we're talking about. I would say if you're going to work with someone, come in with questions. Don't be judgmental. Be curious.
yeah,
I ask a lot of questions. Like, I don't like, does this land? Does this play? Have I
Mhm.
overwritten it? It's not because I'm insecure. I want to give the atmosphere for people to contribute. Because if you haven't figured out, I have a pretty strong personality. Well, if you don't temper that, you're going to shut people out who can help you from like freaking going over the edge, not just in creativity, but in life. So if it's a collaboration, you need to look at it that way. I didn't create the Saints. Patrick and Mitch did. So I'm a servant. And I know sounds like I'm speaking in riddles, but the truth of the matter is, if you want to be a really good writer, if you want to be a good filmmaker, if you want to be a good artist, if you want to be good at anything and make a living, you have to have a servant's heart. And I
Yeah.
know that's hard for people to hear.
That's another thing. I mean, we need to create a list of all the things that we say all the time. Like
All the time. I say that.
heart.
How many times do I freaking say that? Everyone's like bored of me saying it. You got to have a servant's heart. It's like, oh, here we go again. He's on his soapbox. But it's true.
Yeah. No, it's very
You know?
true. And and we're all in service. Nick is an employee of the company. I'm in service. We're all in service to the fans.
Yep.
Everyone in the company is in service to the books and the characters. The books and the characters are in service to, the customers and the investors and anybody that's, exchanging money for these comic books. And
yeah,
it's fun.
In terms of the writing, which is what we were talking about, let me go back to it. You serve the story. Okay.
Yeah.
What I love about Christian serves the story. Kelsey Shannon he holds story sacrosanct, like the farmer holds the earth. He holds it so dear to him, and I think that's why. Even though sometimes we had issues because we're both strong guys, his love of story I always found comforting. If that sounds strange, it's not trying to be, because for him it's everything. And you have to serve the story first and foremost. If you're a storyteller, well, what does that mean? Well, that means you don't necessarily put in, you can put your soul into it, but you don't always put your own personal stuff in it that is not germane to the story. Mm-hmm. It's not a soapbox. I have an inside joke about, you could see people's fetishes that come out. And I'm like, I know what this guy likes. And so we try to avoid that.
They're in every panel. Old student. For Nick, it's World War I biplanes.
Yep, World War I. We're doing a whole Red Baron theme, and Frank Luke. No,
Nick, we're not doing this in the Saints.
No, why not? We can have like this guy who has anachronistic society, and he's a villain, and he flies around in an airplane, and it's a biplane. It's like, no.
And he twiddles his mustache and throws bombs.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too, or whatever. But you have to serve the story, and you should put your heart into it, but not overbearing with things that are not pertinent. And that to me is a form of service, if that makes sense. I think that's important. I know not everyone feels that way. I don't know what to say.
Well, we are celebrating 150 backers. So we had one new backer.
Did we refresh?
Well, I refreshed. We are at 150. So 150 is a great milestone. I think this is, I would like to see 3 or 4 times that number. That is my goal. I'd like to get the Saints to 500 backers. I think I think 500 people at least need to be reading this book. And I appreciate every one of these 150 backers, and extremely grateful to give you guys something that's hard fought and hard won, and the result of a lot many people's talents and efforts, including Nick and myself, Mike Barron, Christian Rosado, who was here in the chat earlier, Eric Weathers, the king of letters, as we call him. I don't think he even knows we call him that, but he's Eric.
I think he
Weathers.
calls it. I think he self-applied that.
Oh, did he? Okay. Well,
I think that's one of those self-applied applications.
well, we adopted it, and it's just sort of like the moniker that follows him around. Kathleen Brignac, the Allegiance Arts marketing and design guru, who does a wonderful job at putting these campaigns and books together. In fact, I want to show you some of her work before we touch off.
Yeah,
we
she
tend to
kicks
talk
ass
about,
and takes names.
you know, the artists and the writing and the writers quite a bit, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make these things so beautiful and so easy to read and understand. And this is Kathleen's work here in these images.
She built this campaign. Matter of fact, she's built all our campaigns. And she came up with this whole motif of the maps and the red. And when she did the first show and tell, everyone was like, it's like, I think everyone let out a collective gasp at how beautiful it was.
Oh, yeah. I think it was a stunning piece. So if you don't know, each chapter or episode of The Saints is named after whatever particular locale is dominating that particular episode. So episode 1 was it Kyoto. Episode 2 was, I think, Kathmandu, right? I believe. Episode 3, Lima. Episode 4 was episode 4 Lima. I get them a little mixed up.
I do mix them.
And so on and so forth. So those are the titles of each individual episodes, and we did that, you know, to because this is an adventure book, and it's part of it is about going to these exotic places and seeing, you know, exotic things through the lenses or the eyes of these characters. And so Kathleen did this amazing back cover treatment or design treatment where she got maps of each of those locales and did, you know, I don't know, worked her magic on them. That's kind of all I know how what she did. But she turned, like what Nick said, she turned them in as a, hey, I was thinking this. What do you think? And we're like, whoa, knock our socks off. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, please. More of this. So, and it's made its way into the motif of the Saints. So you'll see the little map motif in there.
So I actually looked it up on our Dropbox. We have Kyoto, Kathmandu, Sydney.
That's what I was forgetting.
Lima, Brazil. And I'm not going to tell you what episode 6 is.
Yeah, because a little bit of a spoiler. We're going some cool places in episode 6.
Yeah, we've already spoiled enough. I feel a little what do you call it? A little guilty about spoiling old.
I don't think we did. I think he got his fingers in his ears quick enough, and I don't think it will. I don't think it will quite connect. You'll have to. That moment will hit you in the book, and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's what they were talking about," and I see. I get you.
Which brings me to a point. When you get your Nora book, man, post that stuff on social media and tag us.
Please do. Yeah, please. So we've just shipped out another 300 Noras. That is all but now a handful remain that are sitting right over here next to me.
Yeah.
And those will be going out this week. So just about everyone has their Nora book. So please tag us. Let us know what you think. Read it. Give us doesn't have to be an elaborate review. We think these books are hot, or we wouldn't be committing our time and resources to them. We think they have legs. We think they have futures. We think they have large audience potential. But you know, we need a gut check from you guys. So just if it's rate it 1 out of 10, let us know. Rate it 1 out of 5. I don't care. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, or or an in between.
Yeah, let us know what you honestly think. And definitely show a picture of you with it. If some of you are camera shy, obviously I don't want to put anything on you like that. But it always looks good. It always looks good to have the audience show themselves. I back your books. Gerald Lang, I hope I pronounced that right, or if you pronounce the E, Lange. I back your books because you make the best books you can and put that out front. A lot of creators on either side of the culture war in comics and use that as their platform to sell.
Oh man, yes.
I'm gonna let that just linger out there.
I'm
Actually,
just
bring
gonna
that
say I
comment
like
back
Gerald
up.
more with every comment he makes. So
I know, frick, we gotta go party with that cowboy.
Yeah.
I think he lives near Graham, so you guys don't do that. No, actually, since you brought it up, I'll be transparent. It would be easy for me to do that. I like a good argument. I like a good street fight. I got no problem saying that. But our brand is not that. Our brand is not chaos. Our brand is not victimhood. And our brand is not division.
No, I've never. It's in fact the tagline we developed for the company in the early days was discover a hero in every one. And then double meaning, of course, you discover a hero in every one of the books, but inside of every one of us, right, is a hero waiting to be discovered. And it's the book. This is a company built on what unites us in terms of some universal things, right, that really should be bringing us together, which is heroism, sacrifice, love, learning, changing for the better, overcoming the odds, standing against evil in whatever manifestation that takes its
Right.
form. And those are universal things. And we set about in the very beginning and the foundations of this company to do that. It was part of our pitch, part to everybody that got involved. I'm so proud of everybody that's been with us and worked with us for maintaining that vision, and for not. It's a narrow road. And we talked about this the other day, Nick. Maybe just today.
Always.
We talk about we're walking it's a harder road to walk, right? Because it's certainly easier to get attention if you're exploitative, if you're extreme, if you're combative,
Ugly, not physically. I'm talking about ugly in terms of your
character.
speech towards others. Are you denigrating people? And listen, I'm no angel. I mean, and I have a mouth on me when I get going. But there's a time and place for that in private. That's not your brand. At least that's not our brand. And I think denigration of others is not something one should try and monetize. That's my personal opinion. It's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't elevate the reader, in my opinion. And I don't think it elevates the audience at all.
And we're writing. This was it's every book is aimed for 1 million viewers. Every book, millions of viewers. We're writing every page like 2 million people are going to watch it or see it or read it or engage with it in some form of fashion. I mean, we've sold 150. We got 150 backers on the Saints. We're writing this book for 10,000 backers.
Yep.
And those backers come from all walks of life. They engage with the story from their own perspectives in slightly different ways, and it's for every single one of them. And so and we remain dedicated to that. That's something I believe in full force, whole hog, as they say around here.
Yeah, anyone should be able to pick up a book and enjoy it, one of ours. I'm not interested in alienating an audience. I just think that's bad business. I mean, speaking only for myself, I don't care how you vote. I don't care who you sleep with. It's none of my damn business. Just buy our books. If you're not into the testosterone-fueled world of international espionage, maybe you like Norse Saga. Maybe you like a little more antiquated story with the futurists. Maybe you love a period piece such as The Rooster, or you love Westerns like Bass. there is something for everybody, and I think there's a beauty in that. I'm not looking to create tribes. I've seen that too much. It doesn't work for me personally. I find the whole venomous aspect of it pretty distasteful.
Yeah. Another quote I use a lot, and this one I stole from the guy that wrote, and I forget his name. He is deceased now. The guy that wrote the Save the Cat book.
Oh, Blake.
Blake, yes. Show us the same thing, only different. So you say, Western, right, with Bass, but Bass isn't just a Western. Bass is a different take on a Western. Every one of these things that we're doing, I would like to feel, and we're getting feedback from some really high caliber professionals that are getting it. This is this kind of book, but it's not. Like Rooster, I think, is the ultimate kind of bait and switch. It's like Batman in a barn, so it's like a superhero book, and so like you buy it, and then it pretty much rips out of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But Bass is a very special take on a Western genre. It has a metaphysical connection. Bass's conflicts are both very external and very internal. And then for those of you who, of course, nobody's read the completed version of Bass, so I think Bass is still available, by the way, on Indiegogo. If you haven't checked out Bass Reeves, that's David Williams, Kevin Grievous, masterpiece,
Great scripts,
great story, incredible art, and a really unique take on the Western genre. It's both visceral and intimate in many ways. It's a story about a family put through the ringer more than anything else, I would say, through Bass's commitment to duty and the encroaching as chaos and evil encroaches on the edges of civilization, which is the world we're dropped in for Bass Reeves. Again, Bass is a historical character, for those of you who don't know already, with a dramatic and amazing life. This is a fictionalized version of his story, but we remain true to the Marshal as much as possible, especially in what we understand about his nature and ethos and some of the dramatic events that played out in his life. So that's on Indiegogo as well. So please go check out Bass Reeves. That collects all 6, I'm going to use actually 6 fingers here, all 6 episodes of the Bass Reeves storyline, written by Kevin Grievous and illustrated by David Williams again. So I think it's 136 pages, maybe a few more, but it's a hefty tome at a great price, $30 to get into that soft cover on a crowdfund. Printing is a heck of a thing. I don't know that there may be some better buys out there, but I guarantee you they don't print on as nice a paper.
And Kelsey Shannon did the coloring for the first 5
covers,
and they are.
Yeah, and he colored.
Is it all first 5, or did Elizabeth do the first one?
No. Kelsey colored 5 of the covers, as well as the first issue. So he did an amazing job. And Elizabeth and myself are going to be coloring the final episode of Bass, and that is on our docket for this spring. We need to plow through that and send that book to the printer. So the clock is literally ticking on Bass Reeves. Get in there and grab it. Tell your friends about it. There's very little time to order. Now, the Saints, on the other hand, has 52 days left. Plenty of time to spread the word about this project. If you guys have any outlets you want us to talk to, check out any podcasts, blogs, YouTube channels that you love or have relationships with, you think Saints would be a great conversation piece around that. You think we might be good guests. We certainly have a lot to talk about. Ping them, let them know. We're making ourselves available.
Yeah, and hit us up on info@allegiancearts.com. It's the best way to get a hold of us. It goes into the main account. Everyone has access to it, and we all share the information. It's not going to fall into a vacuum. So,
All right.
what do you think? We're about to wrap it up?
I think we're going to wind it down. So I'm just going to, again, for the last time and maybe the third time here, thank you guys. Thank you, 150 backers. Greatly appreciate our dedicated fans. You guys have gotten it. And in fact, if it wasn't for you guys, I probably would have gone insane. So we have some fans out there that are really understanding what we're doing and get it. Well, one thing I talk to Nick about all the time, I don't want to go on too much longer. It's the proof is in the work here.
Mm-hmm.
It's we do the work, and the work is producing good books. I personally may not be the best promotions guy. Nick can yak it up pretty well. I can ride along, but the work is what matters. The craftsmanship is what matters. And if we do it right and do it well, it may be tough at times because we're not really extreme personalities necessarily. But you do the work and it will resonate, and I guess build it and they will come to really go cliche. But yeah, greatly appreciate 150 backers for the Saints 2 Awakenings. You guys really mean the world to us. Our fans are awesome. You get it, and we love that. It keeps us going. So spread the word. Let's get this thing to 500
Spread
back.
the word, and we're going to work on getting Christian Rosado on the next one. So make sure you keep in touch.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Spartan gives us
thumbs up.
Dude, we don't ever use. No one uses that term as much anymore. Spartan existence. I freaking love that. I just can't wait to buy your books tomorrow. I just can't wait to buy, meaning you don't want to wait, or you can't wait as in you're waiting for them to get back.
Yeah, well, they're not going back because we had a problem with our distribution partner, which was
not Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart was great. Very lovely people. Everyone I met there was awesome. Distribution partner.
We may go back to them in a different avenue. So we'll figure out. We'll let you keep in mind. This is why we're doing crowdfunding.
So yeah, let me tell you, before we go, let's give everybody the goals here. We're using crowdfunding to get our 5 titles complete, printed into a limited number of customers' hands. They're proof of concepts at this point, right? We have these storylines, 5 storylines, 5 casts of characters that we're extremely passionate about, and we are dedicated to finishing in their 6-episode first season, I guess you could say, formats. Their introductory graphic novel, the full storyline, a full plate of story and art for you. After that, the plan is to reintroduce all these books back into retail distribution, Amazon, and basically anywhere you can grab a book, So right now our focus is on finishing them, completing them, getting them bound and printed, and using crowdfunding as the mechanism to do that. This is why we greatly appreciate our dedicated fans and customers of these books. They're helping us get these things done. These things would not be possible without you. Otherwise, they'd just be ideas in our head, and we would never be able to dedicate the time and resources it takes to create such massive endeavors. So because of you guys, we'll be able to finish these season 1 projects. And with finished projects, we now have a hell of a showcase for a number of potential partners on all levels. And so thank you again from the bottom of my heart, and I know from Nick's too.
One last question we need to answer. Could you pull up appropriately Spartan's comment? His question here.
Oh, a Walmart.
Walmart doing shady. No,
Walmart was great.
We need to make that clear that the way it works is Walmart is the store, but someone else distributes it. They do not distribute the books.
Right.
And we can only say so much because we're still in the middle of this battle. And we have been advised not to divulge details, especially in the public eye. But what we can tell you is this: Walmart is not at fault. It's the distributor that's been the problem. And I don't want you to go away thinking, oh, Walmart sucks ass. Not at all. It's nothing like that.
So I want to get back into Walmart, especially with our trades.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a pretty good job. It's the person who's been distributing our books that have been doing shady. And that's all I want to say.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that.
We're going to leave it at that, man.
Yeah, so thank you guys for participating in the chat and the discussion. Great comments, great questions. Elizabeth's in the chat. She's been watching the whole time, making sure I don't,
Is that Chumley?
That is Chumley. That's our cat Chumley, who's now.
I can't tell them apart. They all look the same to me.
Yeah, that's our cat Chumley. So that's Elizabeth. Thanks everyone for hanging with us. Thank you, Nick, for dedicating a couple hours to doing this evening, and thanks for sharing so much about your story and your participation in the Allegiance Arts project, I guess you can say, or brand. And thank you.
Oh, we're in this together.
You guys have an awesome night. Spread the word.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.